Hello. So, yeah, we've been soft launching. I have been soft launching this channel for about 2 weeks now, and that more has to do with catching up because this was a lot easier to do 10 years ago with one of those little ball webcams that we used to have and maybe a little earpiece. But yeah, I'm not complaining about tech at all. I'm really happy that we've democratized the way that we can have conversations in public, especially on a platform such as YouTube. So I'm very happy about that. And happy to progress forward. But yeah, I'm a psychology bee. I'm a first year doctor of psychology student with a bachelor's of science in psychology. And um, yeah, before I got too much into the weeds about other topics, I really wanted to engage in, some kind of conversation about Pride Month, but obviously engaging it from like a pro standpoint. That's pretty much done by people whose experiences better reflect those, I don't know, that history and things like that. I could like sum that up in like 20 seconds as far as a psychology point of view, where it's like, yeah, we don't look at LGBT and queer identities, non-binary, etc. Ace, you'd be surprised how covered Ace is. So uh, all of those are just covered under the normal spectrum of human sexuality, and there's really no the if there's any non-consensus, it's pretty much like climate science, where uh, someone has a specific values or a political agenda that they would like to have a conversation about, and they're ignoring science in order to have it. So, um, yeah, as far as queer culture goes, there's there's no debate in like the classroom and the studies or anything like that. Like this is healthy sexuality and gender spectrum. Just whatever is being portrayed is mostly just just on the level, and there's no fight from the psychological community about is this valid, is this healthy, and it's like yeah, it's fine unhealthy. The only thing that could possibly be unhealthy about existing as a trans or queer person is the pushback you get, especially from family, and that can be so incredibly damaging. And I think, and the institutional violence too, when it comes to, um, we don't even have to go farther than end of life care. That's really a big deal, and the fact that these unions have existed for 50, 60, 70. They've lived a natural lifespan of human interaction. And now that people have had the opportunities to spend their lives together, and they're just going to get, I don't know, all that ripped out from under them, because even if on a federal level, certain institutions have found loopholes how to delegitimize same-sex or queer marriages just based off, that kind of. I don't even know what the counter argument is now, but it's not important. Yeah, the normal spectrum of orientation and identity. So there's 0 point at now for adults to not be able to receive the full support and benefits and like they're not at this point where how is that anything resembling a handout from a policy standpoint if a married couple, a legally married couple, or even a common law married couple, if there's end of life concerns and things like that, where is the danger to conservative society if we legitimize that bond, the fact that the estate can carry over in a certain way, or the living will can say that this person is allowed to make decisions for me? That's absolutely essential to an operating society. And the only thing that we can possibly get out of that, from pushing back against it, is just more complications and regression. So the argument that this somehow makes it more complicated or more regressive is simply missing the point as far as the legal landscape or the medical landscape that we're looking at. I've never heard a single psychology professor, and not because they're left-leaning, because plenty of them aren't. Plenty of psychology students are. I come from a pretty conservative school as far as the, I don't know, just the basis of, I guess, moral, like, I've had capstones, so that's a 400 level course. I've had 400 level courses with people who'd never met a gay person before. And I'm not talking about not meeting a trans person. I'm saying they've never met a gay person before, or at least an out one that would be comfortable talking to them, because they came from XYZ Midwest town. Could be Indiana. I believe it was. Yeah, I believe it was Iowa. But yeah, no, and so if anyone wore a dress shirt, that automatically meant they were gay. And that was one of the, I don't know, more humorous anecdotes. And then she's like, but here, it's really surprising how we got people that look like they do on TV. And trust me, this is not a place that looks like people look like on TV. Point being is that people's exposure to their expectations is definitely interesting. And even in a college classroom that isn't extremely diverse, that can be a little bit conservative, there's been zero, 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 zero push for kind of regressive ideas in my sort of education. And to me, that doesn't mean that these things aren't happening and that there isn't kind of this pushback from the regressive right when it comes to academic consensus about healthy being healthy. It just means that, I don't know, there's not much reason to worry about psychology as a field, because one thing about psychology is it seems to generally have a good head on its shoulders and follows the consensus and it follows the data. That's how we gained legitimacy in the first place, and whether or not you believe it's legitimate science or not, that's sort of the goal, and that's where the instruction comes from. That's where the students are coming from. No one's in this to, I don't know, make anyone feel bad about being who they are. It's the goal is written in intro and course after course after course is human enrichment, and that might be something that, like, how is human enrichment a non-loaded topic as far as the science goes? Well, what is the one thing about psychology is that it's based on philosophy, and it's based on statistical science, and the formation of the field itself is how to best serve the populations that a clinician can interact with. So any sort of argument that it needs to be, have zero ethical stakes, that's you're in the wrong field and you're looking at the wrong thing. Yeah, there's been zero writings about that ever. Like, and so if you want to look at psychology as if it was a purely scientific field, well, I would say that we support that knock on us in the first place. That's not what the field is about. The field is about human interaction and engagement. It's about making lives better for people. That's why we study eye movements and how fast a hand can respond to a button click, so that we can make pilots safer to protect the lives of the passengers, so that we can make worker lives less stressful on their wrists and things like that. There's been no psychological study or progress that's of any sort of value that anyone takes seriously that has anything to do with anything frivolous. Um, Even when we get into animal behavioralism, we spend more time with our pets than we do with other people. So that's it's something else that everything that's studied in this field, which is a statistical field that deals with behavior and defining thought through data, everything we do is based on what is the betterment of individuals and society itself. So I was going to go off on a different tangent in this video, but I'm pretty much fine if this is just a defense of psychology itself, and why no one should be able to claim that the current field or the current state of psychology is in any way being regressive, because more the contrary. There's between the instruction, the textbooks that go on the wall, um, the conversations that people have on the radio and stuff like that. Um, if there is any navigation, it's more about how to stay legitimate against criticism and being more reals against feels. And at a certain point, that's a non-argument, because the data supporting the validity of mental health and all these politically charged topics involving sexuality and gender identity and yeah, all the arguments against them are pretty much more feelings based than anyone supporting them. The data supporting it's pretty much being like, we don't even understand what the argument is at this point. Thank you.